So I'm just here at the edge of the Queens Wharf construction site at the moment, and I think it's Queen Victoria Park. That's Queen Victoria statue up there. So dedicated to the 70,000 women who served Australia in military services. A rock to commemorate them. I don't believe in war. I wish it wasn't a thing. But yeah, if we're ever going to prevent war, we need to have some focus on more positive stuff, understanding between cultures. It's probably not a good spot to have a camera there, but yeah, so 500 Queens venture capital will scale up to the G20 nations, and that'll create 10,000 Queens, this venture capital. And I'm looking at this construction site over here, Queens Wharf precinct. It's like a $3.6 billion development. It's going to be pretty amazing when it's done. All parklands and public spaces, casinos, hotels, luxury, everything, and a display of Brisbane to the world. And I think 10,000 Queens HQ will be in that building, one of those buildings in that precinct. And yeah, like we can even scale, I can imagine scaling up even further with 50,000 Queens. So it's 500 Queens in 100 countries, all addressing long-term civilization planning and working together, sharing ideas. Yeah, it's a very good time. There's a lot of money available in the world now, with all these countries printing new money to try and stimulate the economy. Sovereign wealth funds, yeah, even the Sustainable Markets Initiative that Prince Charles has been championing since Terra Carta in January. I only just saw it today. It's March 20th. I mean May 20th. And yeah, so I sent an email to the Sustainable Markets Initiative with a pitch about 500 Queens, and we'll see what comes of that. They certainly have a lot of people signed up to that already, and if they like how I explain myself, then there's a good chance that we'll get access to sovereign wealth funds and lots of institutional investors that will be very useful post in the secondary funds after the pre-seed fund, the initial fund of $30 million for 5 years, 100 women per year, 100 startups with women CEOs per year, and then over 5 years, so each of them will get $50,000 pre-seed if the fund goes as I'm imagining it. And then there'll be another $1 million a year for the Innovation Accelerator at 500 Queen Street, and setting up the international networks for syndication of 500 Queens in the first G20, like the 20 countries in G20. And yes, I imagine getting a couple of apartments in and around Queen Street, so that visitors and teachers and trainers can stay, and myself and other of the founders and initial investors can stay when they're in town. And yeah, so it's very different to what I understand of typical funds, because there won't be any equity taken from the pre-seed round. It will be just a guarantee that the follow-up funds for 500 Queens VC and on the first Series A fund get executive option, and then follow-up funds they get first choice option, but those will be worth equity and shares on it. Depending on each company, individual company, it will be evaluated, so it's fair, structured, and sufficient money for whatever the idea is for each startup, and how scalable it is and how much is needed for research and development or implementation and such. So yeah, we have to have a pretty sweet carrot to get women into these sort of companies and these positions, because they're currently only getting less than 10% of VC investment money. So it may be that it's because they don't want to start companies, they're just at the business level or at the employee level, and there's not a lot of women in there. But I can understand why. Well, I personally haven't wanted to get into the corporate structure because of the mentality that seems to be commonplace, not only in the television series but in the real world. It's very ego driven and not comfortable. So with 500, like 100 women per year in the 50 or 60 seats over at 500 Queen Street, we'll have 3 days a week for each of the startups, and then overlap with events and meetings and trainings so as required. And yeah, from there we'll have a pretty good basis. It's just a matter of getting some legal structures formulated and yeah, get some sign up from the first VC, first limited partnership or institutional fund to essentially give away $30 million on the basis that guaranteed to invest in those 500 women. It's going to be more than 500 women, but I'm just talking about them at the pinnacle, at the CEO level, because we'll be encouraging majority executive of each of the 500 startups also be women. So that's bringing it up then to several, like 1,000, 1,500 or more, depending on what type of country that company is being set up. And then it'll also vary as we syndicate across the G20, because different legislations, different rules and such. So yeah, it's coming along nicely. I've now moved into the CBD, so I can get around, and I'll start trying to tee up some interviews that we can have in the 360 camera at different places. Might see about getting a site visit on the Queens Wharf project, and maybe as things progress I might even get to talk to the Premier and some other key women in leadership, such as Gina Reinhardt and many others. There's lots of Indigenous elders we can get access to for a talk and get that point of view as well. So I'll cut this one here. If you have any questions, subscribe and like, and then put your comments below. Contact me via LinkedIn or the contact form on 500queensvc.com, and yeah, or Luke Catalyst on Instagram, or Luke Hayes 360 on YouTube. It's a mouthful, but anyway, I'm going to continue talking to this camera, imagining that you're on the other side enjoying the content, and hopefully we can make this creative vision reality and enjoy the journey. Alright, much love, bye.